We're at the famous Madison Square Garden. I'm here again with Tim Martin. We're going to talk about primarily what does this mean in basketball? What does this building mean to basketball?
Oh man, this is like the Coliseum, you know what I mean, in Rome. So I think, you know, every player growing up, especially during our era,
right,
this was it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you hear nothing but stories, and you know, I never had the opportunity to play in an event at a place like this. But you know, growing up, this is something that really inspired me to continue to develop at my craft and get better.
Is this the reason why they consider New York City the Mecca, because of the lights in Madison Square Garden, and all of this that surrounds New York City?
I think it has something to do with that.
Right.
Because it is a stage, you know what I mean? And from that aspect, I think, you know, it's the Broadway show for all of us. You know, the people that really play and put their blood, sweat, and tears into something. This is really the opportunity to be seen. Right. And this is the best stage to do it at in the world.
So you're primarily from Dallas, and I know that we're in New York. We have we like what you guys are doing in Dallas, and we like the fact that what you're doing as far as spreading the culture on basketball. Can you tell the people about what exactly does this beautiful struggle mean? I see you got the hoodie on right now. What exactly does that stand for?
Yeah, man, it's just something that's sentimental to me. You know, ironically, I actually took the phrase from Talib Kweli.
Really?
So he was one of my favorite artists growing up. So I was a
New Yorker guy.
Yeah, Most Def, all the guys, you know, MOP. That was kind of my era of music that I grew up with. So with that though, you know, I had a lot of hardships growing up. And, you know, I was homeless with my son for a long period of time. And so now, just being able to really understand what life means to me, I think this phrase kind of wraps it up in a nice little, you know, sentiment aspect of the beautiful struggle. And so that's something that it's a phrase that I live by, so to speak. So,
now, did basketball help you get out of that struggle that you were in?
Oh yeah, no question, man. It was something that, you know, when I was homeless, basketball was kind of just the way for me to really just get out of the struggle, so to speak, and to meet good people like yourself, and to really just network. That's one thing basketball did for me, is that it built relationships through that ball. From all kind of different cultures, different people from around the world, and it really inspired me to continue to grow as a person and to get better at my craft. So.
And I think that's what separates you from most of the trainers out there. Everyone's doing a great job of what they do, but I think that the fact that you've been through hell, for lack of a better phrase, and so you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears at every drill, every rep, every session, and that shows when you do your videos. And I've seen you work, and that's definitely something that we on this side see from afar.
No, that means a lot, man. That means a lot, and that's, you know, I think we talked about that before. I think it's just important that everybody focuses more so on their craft, the quality of their craft, because what you see in nowadays is from rappers to really any industry, to where people are just trying to get the quick buck, you know, the quick come up, so to speak, and anything that has substance or that is quality or that's going to have a legacy behind it in terms of your body of work is going to take a long time to develop. And I think not just like we tell kids, you know, my son's 7 years old. We both know he ain't going to the league now. It's going to take years for him to consistently develop his craft before he gets to that level. So for us as teachers, we need to do a better job of holding ourselves accountable and making sure that we are also applying that same, you know, methodology that we teaching to these kids about getting better as a person or as a teacher. I
agree, because at the end of the day, we're, like you said before, we're tutors, and we're mentors to the young men and women coming up, and we have to leave a legacy for them going forward. If you were to go back to your basketball beginnings, what player, or players, really inspired your game growing up?
Man, so I wasn't the most athletic guy. You know what I mean? I was what I call slow fast. You know what I mean? I was
great change of speed.
So, you know, Dana Barros was a guy.
Wow.
Percy Hawkins.
Wow.
Mark Price, Mark Jackson. A lot of those guys, you know, I look at guys that were playmakers because I knew, you know, I was a great shooter, but I wasn't really crafty at getting to the basket. You know what I mean? But I knew how to create for others. And so a lot of those guys growing up, you know, they really inspired me to just, you know, do what I do now. So, you know.
Now, do you hoop when you train? Do you hoop with them?
I try to. I used to when I was younger. But now, you know, I got bad knees and stuff. So it's getting rough as I get older. But you know, now I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of great help around me, other aspiring trainers that help.
Want to help out?
Now it's kind of like, well, this is a part of it. You gotta do the physical work.
Right.
I mean? So
you're gonna do the mental part. Let them do the drill, play defense. I got you. And that's actually something that we as trainers must do as far as helping the next generation coming up.
Right.
I think that sometimes we get lost in our own stuff that we forget to help out the next generation.
Right.
And the fact that you're bringing aspiring trainers on board is just, again, a tribute to, and that's going to build your legacy.
Right.
It's like a coaching tree.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you look at like Larry Brown, who's one of my mentors for a long time, to where you look at his coaching tree.
Right.
You got Greg Popovich, John Calipari, Bill Self.
Everyone's on his staff at some point.
What I mean? Yeah. And then, you know, for me, like, I learned a lot from Tyler Ralph, and guys like yourself, Mark Edwards, and so many different mentors that I've learned and made me who I am today. And now it's kind of just like that each one teach one theory. So there's a lot of great trainers out there. But I think ultimately, if you want to grow, you got to bring others up with you.
Right. You need a team. You need a team. Yep. Okay, so again, we're here in New York City. Give me your top 5 New York City basketball players.
Man, that's a good question. What, like?
Nah.
Okay, is it high school?
In the NBA? Ooh. Let's do high school if you can, college, and then also pro.
Okay. Well, I would say, you know, I was born in '86, so prior to that, I didn't get to see a lot of people. But I know Kenny Anderson. Right. You got to throw him in. Stephon Marbury. Right. Sebastian Telfair. Right. Lance Stevenson, in terms of what he brought the excitement out. But obviously, the number one guy that I think is Guy Shamgar. Right. And you know, he's in Dallas as well. Right. That's another mentor that I look up to, where those guys did it the right way. Right. You know what I mean? In terms of giving back to the community. And so I put all the different variables, not just the on-court, when I talk about those guys. Okay. They're just good people too. Right. So I always throw that in the mix when you talk about the greats. Okay. And professional? Professional. You know, Chris Mullin, he was nice. Hella nice. Mean, he was nice, Hall of Famer. Right. Like I go back to the Mark Jackson. Right. Man, that's a good question, because there's so many of them. There's a lot. I mean? And there's more continuously coming out of here. So, man, you put me on the spot. Yes, sir. That's a great debate that I would have to really ponder about. That's a great question. Yeah. Like I'm in New York and I couldn't come up with that top 5. Yeah, no, it's really impossible, because then you start going one direction and saying, yo, you know, these guys are the greats, and then you start thinking, going back to the days in the 60s, 70s, it gets better and better the more you think about it. So we spoke earlier about the space that we're in as far as the training. What's going to be in the future for the basketball training world? That's something that's going to be interesting to see. Just obviously, you know, with the rules change, with the NCAA and stuff. I do know there's more trainers coming out. You know, there's really no way to legislate it. Right. I mean, anybody could really kind of just come out and be a trainer now. Look themselves in the mirror and say, I'm a trainer. Right. And then we got more facilities coming out. Right. You know, especially in the Dallas area, Dallas-Fort Worth area, we got a lot of facilities being built year-round. So there's more gyms, which is going to, you know, create the supply and demand for more trainers. More players need attention, the one-on-one training and so forth. So I think the game will get better, but it got to start with us as the adults. Right. You know, us as the teachers. We got to make sure that we teaching the game the right way. Right. So, do you think that at times we go left when we should be going right as far as teaching, the teaching aspect? I do, man. But then again, you know, the way I teach is going to be different than how you teach. Right. And I think it's important that you teach what you know. Right. You know, for me, I wasn't a great ball handler. You know, I was more cerebral on coming off of pin downs and reading off the ball screen. Right. I was kind of more of a simple but efficient type of player. Yeah, me too. In New York, you know, you're going to bring some flash with it too. Right. You know? So I think ultimately it's about what you're comfortable in teaching, but it's also about articulating it in a way to where the players will fully comprehend the subject. Right. You know what I mean? They need to fully understand the whys, the when, and the hows of the situation or the move that you teach. Right. You know, so I think we got to get back to that. I agree. When did you remove cones out of your sessions? Man, great question. Probably about 3 to 4 years ago. And that's when you were working with a higher level player, though. Right. Yeah. Like NBA players, I've never seen a cone. Right. Yeah. But I really did that with the younger kids, and it's not taking a shot at anybody. I mean, NBA coaches still use cones. Right. It's just for me, the mythology about my teachings was more so about the imagination. I think a lot of the school systems nowadays is taking the critical thinking component out, and with this new millennial generation on how they think, with the attention span or whatnot, I try to always insert the imagination. So I want them to really visualize and understand that, you know, if you attacking from the slot or from the wing, I want you to really just see defenders and so forth, as opposed to cones, which some people say cones represent, you know, a defender or whatnot, which is cool, but what I do is more one-on-0 aspect, and then I'm throwing bodies. I'm bones over cones.
That's what prompted me to ask the question. I remember your hashtag, bones over cones.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, it's boxing, right? Basketball is a reactionary sport. So essentially, if you really think about it, it's cool to build your muscle memory on certain mechanics in terms of your shooting, or just getting good quality reps. But then you need to apply that against bodies, because you don't never know if you defending me. I don't know what you're gonna do to disrupt my rhythm. And so, you know, going back to the boxing analogy, if I'm working on my boxing technique against a punching bag, that's great. But then if I try to just do that and then go into the ring, I'm gonna get my ass kicked.
Sure will.
I mean, I need a sparring partner to focus on how to dodge and weave and so forth. So it's just a theory that's worked for me.
And I subscribe to that same theory. And I look at games and I see players that train with the cones exclusively, and they look robotic. All right, so they're going to the elbow, they're making a double cross, whatever the move may be. There is already pre-programmed that they're going to do at the elbow, do double cross, as opposed to reading what the defense is giving them and reacting based upon that. And I use the boxing analogy also. I just know that, and I thought of old Mike Tyson quote, everything looks good until you get punched in the face. So that all looks good. Shadow boxing looks good until somebody's hitting you back. I think that's a big thing, that sometimes you look at some of the training that's going on, and it's so robotic. It's so robotic. And you know, like I said, there's nothing wrong with you working out with cones. That's not the point. But the point is that you need to apply that in a game setting at some point. Because these kids, it's a mental block that they have. If you think that you're gonna just do a lot of stuff one-on-0 or against the cone and then apply that into a game, you're delaying your progression. Because if you do something, you need to be able to make mistakes and play through those mistakes. And you'll only do that through pickup basketball or playing one-on-one, two-on-two, whatever. You just got to figure it out. Got to play.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, you also have a big thing on hashtag is the process. I'll be watching. Break that down for us. I know that Embiid is big on trust the process, and I'm quite sure his process is a little different than your process. Elaborate to the people what exactly is your process.
Man, so the process to me, what it means to me is that it's a one day at a time kind of thing, right? And you hear a lot of these people now, they're talking on social media about like the ending result, right? Of like everybody wants to emulate like the guys that are in the NBA, right? Doing Kyrie moves or doing this and that. But like, you got to start from somewhere. You have to start somewhere, and then you got to continuously build. The journey's a lot longer than the destination. And so for that process, for any player that I work with, it's for them to fall in love with that. That this is going to take time and to have patience. And then, you know, whatever happens will happen. But the process to me, it just means, you know, just really just enjoying that moment, but also enjoying working at your craft day to day.
So what does the term heavy lifting mean to you?
Good question. Heavy lifting, man, that's something that I would probably say just putting a lot of things on your back. You know what I mean? That comes with stress, that comes with growth, that comes with sacrifice, discipline, valuing your morality in terms of as a person, standing up for what you believe in. And you know, as I'm getting older, I guess there is a lot of heavy lifting being a single father too, you know, and doing everything that I'm doing from a business standpoint, but also trying to uplift others. You know, there's a lot that comes with it. It's not just the player development side. It's just the growth as a man that I'm trying to become to help others. So there's a lot of different variables that go into that.
That was a great answer, man. I appreciate that, big time. In terms of basketball, let's say you work with a kid, he or she for 12 years or so. Now he or she makes it to the next level. and they whisk away with another trainer, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Is that an avoidable situation, or is that something that we just have to deal with on this level?
I don't want to say it's avoidable. I don't think there's anything. I mean, that's nothing is ever 100%.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's just more so about, man, like, for me, I try to do it for the right reasons. I always, you know what I mean? And I believe in good karma. And so when you're going through that process and it's taking years, and as the players start to see the success, that's really on the player and y'all's relationship.
Right.
Where if they're going to feel comfortable to continue with you, get into that next level, and then, you know, just maintaining that relationship. But I think as we all grow and get to new levels as people, your circles are always going to change no matter what. Right. Even outside of the basketball
world. Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's just a natural part of human development, so to speak. Ideally, you know, you want to maintain those relationships.
Right.
And you want to keep the day ones around you.
Right.
But sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. And to me, you know, that's okay. I can live with that, because it's kind of like what Hope say, you know, you make one, make another Hope. You know what I mean? And if you're really that great at what you do, and you're doing it for the right reasons, you know, you'll have more opportunities in the future.
Right, I agree with that 1,000%. And I don't think it's avoidable. Yeah. I think it's part of the business. Right. I think it's part of the process.
Right. It definitely is.
It's part of the process.
And you learn, you know. And for me, I've learned a lot.
Right.
Throughout that process. But ultimately, it's made me a better person from a business standpoint, and also a better teacher as well.
Right. I think it's built my skin up a little bit. Yeah. As far as to be immune to the process. Right. Because I know I'm gonna lose this McDonald's All-American, so this, whatever, the powers that be, and I'm like, all right, we still cool. Right. But you made a business decision. I respect that. If you need me, I'm here. Right. That is all based upon our relationships.
Right. Nah, man, and it happens. You know what I mean? Right. And especially when players reach that certain level of success, you know, you got a lot of new people coming at them. Right. And it's just natural to listen to new voices and stuff, and sometimes it does allow the player to grow in different areas that maybe they're immune to my voice. Right. And I'm not getting the response that I need out of them. And it is better for the player. Agreed. To you know, separate and learn from somebody else.
Take a break, and then that makes you they appreciate you when they come back. Yeah. I think that's big also.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the boomerang effect. Yep. If it was meant to be, then it'll be. You know, we'll come back and we'll figure this out together.
So what's next for you?
Man.
As far as the training aspect, I know that you're doing very well on the business side. Yeah. What's next for you? I know a lot of people go into coaching. A lot of people, you know, stay within the development space. Yeah. Where do you see yourself?
Man, I want to do more camps around the world. Because I want to learn more from other cultures. I think that's something that's always been a bucket list of mine, in the sense of you know, traveling the world, kind of continuing the pattern that I'm down, the journey that I'm doing now, continuing down that path, and I'm really putting more energy and work into my son. You know, it don't look right for me to making other players great, and then my son out here airballing shots.
You're looking stink.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And me and him have a great relationship. Right. So I think for my future, he is my future. Right. I would start with him as the priority, but ultimately, I want to touch the masses of the world, not just from the player standpoint, from coaches as well, up and coming trainers, trying to really coach the coaches, so to speak. Right.
That's a big task.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big task, and I'm with you on that. I think that a lot of people, first off, a couple years ago, skill development wasn't even a business, an industry. But now it's being embraced by people such as yourself, and getting out there and then getting to the masses and letting them know that it's needed. Right. It's like coaches got to win. Yeah. They ain't got time to necessarily sit there and teach you certain things. Right. That's where we come in.
Exactly.
And I think that we can definitely help the culture, and then our basketball, and then also the culture as a whole, and how basketball can affect, like you said, go to different countries and bridge that gap between people in Japan, people in China, people in Indonesia, in the Philippines, whatever the case may be. We just finished another MECCA podcast here in the backdrop of New York City, in the Madison Square Garden, aka the MECCA. I'm here with Tim Martin, who flew all the way from sunny Dallas to come up to New York City in this blistery weather we have up here. I want to thank you for coming up, man,
thank you, man.
And sharing with the people on our podcast following what you do and how great you are, and we appreciate you on this side, and we look forward to working with you in the future, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Man.
Same here.